Let us continue talking about the South China Sea. The South China Sea is quite lively. So why is the South China Sea so important to us? Some people might not understand. Just open the map and take a look. Wow, this panda is really overbearing. Just look at you. It is just that big South China Sea. You can come to the edge. What about the feelings of the neighboring countries? Aren't they going to make a fuss? You see, this issue is a huge problem. I had this question before I even started middle school. Although looking at the map is quite satisfying, but that is a bit too overbearing. Then everything was swept away. Although I fully support our claims in the South China Sea, I still agree with the stance that it is all ours. But at that time, I did not have the theoretical basis, so I lacked confidence. You see, this theoretical basis, it is a very important matter. But later I found the theoretical basis for it. My grandfather told me about it. My grandfather is a Buddhist. One day at noon, I was watching the news broadcast with him. I think it was around 2014. At that time, there was a confrontation in the South China Sea. My grandfather was watching TV and getting angry. These foreigners are being unreasonable. They actually want our South China Sea. Can we give them the South China Sea? If we lose the South China Sea, where will Guanyin Bodhisattva reside? Oh, I was stunned at that moment. Wow, this is it. Guanyin Bodhisattva of the South China Sea. You said if we lose the South China Sea. I mean, that Bodhisattva definitely would not agree. The subsequent historical developments are clear to everyone that Bodhisattva did not intervene at all. The standoff in the South China Sea was a complete victory for us. So you see, now no matter what happens with Scarborough Shoal, Renai Reef, and that grounded Mariveles 3, right? All these disputes stem from who owns the South China Sea. You see, as I mentioned this, I bet someone is saying, listen, you are starting to ramble. Even your Guanyin Bodhisattva has come out. Can your mythological stories be taken as evidence? If you want to say that, look at that little ye. They have taken out the Old Testament. This is our basis. Jerusalem is our deed given to us by God. Look, they have brought God into it. We just mentioned Guanyin of the South China Sea. He is not breaking the law, right? I have not even mentioned the classic of mountains and seas yet. That thing needs to be brought. After they die, they will report to the king of hell. Otherwise, the king won't accept them. Become a wandering soul or a wild ghost. All right, let us stop the nonsense. We have joked around a bit too much today. Okay, let us get to the point. So why is the South China Sea ours? This question is very important. Whatever you do, your theoretical basis must be sound. You have no confidence in what you are doing. Like those yellow leaves you have been licking these past few days. What gives you the right to lick them? Are they yours? You just lick them. But if we had a theoretical basis, Huangshin Island originally belongs to us. So what if I fill it in? Who is stopping me? Anyone who blocks me, I will hit them. Blow up your 9,701 ship. That is considered light. Why do we keep saying that the South China Sea has belonged to China since ancient times? What is the basis for that? Actually, to answer this question, you need to have some foundational knowledge. Apart from that Korean peninsula, which is part of Asia, before World War II, there were no unified nations. At most, there were scattered dynasties or tribes. It was mostly tribal or clan-based. The entire Southeast Asian islands were still inhabited by indigenous peoples. We collectively refer to that region as Nanyang. What is Nanyang? The land without an owner. After the end of World War II, these Southeast Asian regions were supported by Britain and the United States and gradually established their independence. The reason they gained independence was not because the US and USSR were kind to them. Go ahead and establish your country. In the future, you will also have a country. From now on, you will move towards modernization. How can they be that kind-hearted? Letting them establish a country is just to reduce governance costs. What does that mean? What do you mean? You have so many islands in Southeast Asia, riddled with ravines. Islands dotted the US and the Soviet Union fought each other in World War II and brought the world to its knees. So how did they rule? They sent troops to every village, from village chiefs to provincial governors, all appointed by the Americans. The public security bureaus in various regions, local police stations, grain bureaus, personnel bureaus, and medical bureaus are all managed by Americans. This governing cost is too high, so they need to establish their own country, build their own nation. Each manages their own affairs. As the conqueror, I, the United States, only your managers are managing you. What does that mean? It means letting them choose a class monitor. After selecting the class monitor, Who is the class monitor responsible to? They have to be responsible to the head teacher. So when you are in class, how do you choose the class monitor? No matter who you choose, they have to listen to the class teacher. And this class monitor is someone you elected yourselves. So tell me, do you accept that? You have to accept it. So this is the reason why the United States promotes democracy around the world. It is not the US saying it. We want to give freedom to all the people in the world. Everyone should choose their own leaders. The leaders you choose for yourselves. You are all democratic now. That is not the underlying logic of democracy. It is a superior and controllable national system. You see, this system looks pretty good. They are all elected, one person, one vote. But no matter who you elect, you have to listen to America. Why is that? Because whether you are electing a president or a congressman, first, you need to have money. Second, you need political connections, and money and political connections. The US can control this. Just think about the countries in Southeast Asia. How can you make money if you do not trade with Americans? Can you make money? So as long as the US controls your economy, it can control your elections. Additionally, there is the separation of powers. What is the separation of powers? Some people say, we need the separation of powers. The separation of powers is good. Powers check and balance each other. But how many people actually know what the separation of powers means? What are the three powers? I am afraid not many can answer that, unless someone like me, who studies law, enjoys researching these things. The so-called separation of powers refers to legislative power, executive power, and judicial power. These three powers are independent of each other and check each other. So what is legislative power? It is about setting the rules. For example, the Congress, or our National People's Congress. This is specifically for legislation. So what is executive power? It is about the specific executing bodies. For example, the government, Public Security Bureau, and Civil Affairs Bureau. Wait. That is all administrative power. And then someone said, isn't the Public Security Bureau part of the judicial power? It is a judicial institution. Oh no. The Public Security Bureau is an administrative institution. Then there is the judicial power, what we call the judiciary. Is the adjudicating authority, or you could call it the discretionary authority. It determines whether someone has committed a crime or not. This is resolved solely through judicial power. Generally, there are two judicial authorities, the prosecutor's office and the court. So this separation of powers means these departments are independent of each other and check each other. You see, when it comes to this, many people say, isn't that great? They are independent of each other and check each other. Isn't that putting power in a cage? Indeed. Power is in a cage. But then, who is in charge of the cage? That is another question. Let me give you an example. This will get deep. For instance, one of them is judicial power. This is the most powerful. It is equivalent to the right to judge. Whether you are ruling on whether Lao Tse violated grandma, or judging whether Yin Shiwei did anything illegal. That is the authority of the judiciary. But look at Southeast Asian countries. Who holds that judicial power in their hands? If you do not know, you can check out the Singapore dramas and the old Hong Kong dramas. When the court opens, a bunch of sheep come out with a wig on their head. Curly-haired and self-colored. From afar, they look like they have turned into poodles. Then you tell me, why do they have to bring that thing to court? This is the fundamental way the U.S. controls the world. This is called judicial colonialism. Your country follows the common law system, right? You come to our country to study law. You want to say something. Our country follows the civil law system. Then you go study in France. No matter which legal system you study, you will ultimately have to further your studies in the big beautiful country. As long as you accept their theories, you have accepted their spiritual colonization. Even during your study abroad, you will have already sworn allegiance. If you do not believe it, just look at the Philippines. Look at Duterte. Duterte has been constantly impeached. The charges against him are crimes against humanity. Because during his time in office, he organized anti-drug activities. He cracked down on drug dealers. But the judicial authorities determined that Duterte, you were too harsh in your crackdown on drug dealers. You are anti-human. Where are you going to find a reason? You can also look at Japan and Korea. Whether it is Japan's Public Prosecutor's Office, Special Investigation Department, or the former prosecutors in Korea, they are all powerful and influential figures. Investigating presidents, investigating lawmakers, they arrest at will. So how did these people come here? They all had to study in the United States. They studied law. Without a history of studying in the US, you can't get into these two departments. Some might have questions, like, isn't that wrong, if that is the case? So a few days ago, how did Chief Yoon Seok-yul get arrested? Look, speaking of which, we need to share some knowledge. So who arrested Yoon Seok-yul? This time, it was not the prosecutors, it was the Labor Adjustment Office that did it. What is the situation with the Office of the Special Prosecutor? That was in 2019. During the previous South Korean President Moon Jae-in's term, the reason for its establishment at that time was that the power of prosecutors in South Korea was too great, so the authority of prosecutors to investigate public officials was limited, separated out. Establish a standalone public arbitration office. This arbitration office operates independently from the legislative body, independently from the judicial branch, and independently from the executive branch. By doing this, it becomes much harder to control. That is why. The reason Moon Jae-in was able to end his term peacefully, that is also why Yoon Suk-yeol, the leader, listened so much to the United States, and still got removed from office while in power. Because this little Han was secretly maneuvered by the previous president, Moon Jae-in, in a covert move, breaking free from the colonial grip of the judiciary. So can this gap be filled in the future? Can we still earn it back into the hands of the beautiful one? Well, we still have to look ahead. You see, we have gone off topic. Isn't this episode about the South China Sea? Anyway, this show of mine has never really stayed on topic. Just bear with me and listen. It is just a chat show. If you go straight to the point with the title, you won't catch the deeper meaning. Anyway, I just said a lot of things. I just want to express one idea. In Asia, especially in the South China Sea, there were no countries before World War II. After World War II, two powers divide the world. In order to better manage the results of the war, they supported a number of countries. For example, the little guy in the South China Sea is that Aben. So why does he get to divide our South China Sea as soon as he appears? The South China Sea used to have an owner. It was ours. March 1974. So on the gold and silver island in Jisha, we unearthed pottery shards from the Warring States period, and these shards even have Chinese characters inscribed on them. Moreover, the chronological order is continuous, extending all the way to the Ming Dynasty. This is no longer just myth or legend. There is tangible physical evidence, such as this kind of evidence. There are plenty of them, whether it is the ruins on the island or the sunken ships beneath the sea. They can all prove that the entire South China Sea has belonged to us since ancient times. So why should you, a country established just a few decades ago, claim my South China Sea? Just like in your village, every household has its own homestead. Suddenly, a few outsiders arrive. They move into your village, and right away they want a share of your homestead. Would you agree to that? Who do you think you are? Therefore, on November 8, 2024, the president of this little Marx, they signed two legal documents. One is called the Ocean Law, and the other is the Archipelago Pirate Law. These are laws established by their own country. It has nothing to do with us. They have claimed our Wangwang Island and a large area of our South China Sea. They have taken it all for themselves. Just think about it. How can we accept that? What is this thing? The South China Sea has been mine for over 2,000 years. You just arrived less than 100 years ago and want to divide my territory. On what basis? So we won't indulge him either. On November 10th, we immediately announced the baseline of the territorial sea around Huangyan Island. It clearly states that Huangyan Island is Chinese territory, and it is inherent territory. Then, in late December, the USS Carl Vinson aircraft carrier arrived. Isn't that a coincidence? That is not a coincidence. So why did I mention that earlier? It is to help you understand, the Philippines is not a sovereign country. It was just that big, beautiful place after World War II. To reduce governing costs, they establish and control a so-called country. Who wants to take our South China Sea? Is it the people of Zhao Fei's country? Their country has only a few Coast Guard ships. Their navy is almost non-existent. Why would they want to take our South China Sea? Besides, their fishermen go to fish in the South China Sea. We did not stop them, but our fishermen, over these 20 or 30 years, they have not been short of kidnapping. Kidnap, then beat, then demand money. If you do not pay, they won't release you. So who is the mastermind behind all this? If you had listened to me, you would understand in the first 10 minutes. So what happened to Calvinson later? What else could happen? He took a detour and ran away. So what exactly happened? You can listen to my first 3 episodes. This big beauty just ran off. Only Zhao Fei is left standing alone in the wind, looking distraught. I went to the boss's place. So what do I do now? Seeing that Panda get angry on Huangyan Island, and seeing Tianjin come to Huangyan Island, this is serious. Once a runway is built on Huangyan Island, and a port is developed, radar station established, missile base, then it can't be played with. So let us say, hey, you see, I am saying hypothetically, if the Hongqi 9B surface-to-air missile is stationed on Huangyan Island, can planes from Manila take off? Then it will be up to us. Of course, this is purely my guess. I believe it is not feasible. So this little tip was in a hurry. Then, on January 8th, this little guy brought out his 2 hidden, large Seaview ships. He took them out to stop Panda from acting in Huangyan Island. And what model are his 2 giant ships from the Philippines? How big is it? That is the famous maritime giant, the 9,701 ship. This is the top-notch Coast Guard vessel from Zhao Fei's family. It has a displacement of up to 600 tons. Just think about it, a Coast Guard ship with a displacement of 600 tons. Isn't that just a warship? What about our 054A frigate? The displacement is only 4,000 tons, but that little flying sea police boat is already 600 tons. This ship, 9,701. The length is 96.6 meters. The width is 11.5 meters. The depth is 5.2 meters. The draft is 4.3 meters. The maximum speed is 24 knots. This ship was built for the Philippines by Benzi. They say it is a sightseeing boat, but the bow is equipped with a 20mm automatic cannon. Did you hear that clearly? That is 20mm. So what does that mean? Except for China, this cannon still has some power. After all, it is a Coast Guard ship. Coast Guard ships are not meant for fighting. They are for law enforcement. Why do you need so many cannons? So this ship 9701 has already strong combat capability in the Coast Guard fleet. It is quite powerful already. As a result, when he arrived at Huangyan Island and took a look, he was like, what is that up ahead? Is it a warship or a cruise ship? He took out his binoculars and looked. On the bow, there were big characters that read China Coast Guard 5901. When this little guy saw the Coast Guard, he realized he had not checked the calendar before going out. How did I run into this one? This one has a displacement of 12,000 tons. Mine is just a fraction of that. If you say you are using a decommissioned 052D as a Coast Guard ship, I won't say anything. After all, you still have to spend money on dismantling it. But to deal with me, you built a 12,000-ton Coast Guard ship just for that. That is a bit much, do not you think? And America's main battleships, the Arleigh Burke missile destroyers, and the Ticonderoga-class cruisers, are all smaller than your yacht. What are you doing? I was just talking. Look up. A helicopter has arrived in the sky. Its shape is instantly recognizable. This Z-9D helicopter is in trouble. Wait a minute, this Z-9D is a military helicopter. It does not belong to the maritime sequence. Don't be fooled by its appearance as a helicopter. It can carry 4 anti-ship missiles, although they are the YJ-9 small anti-ship missiles. However, it has a range of 20 kilometers. Moreover, it uses active radar guidance. Its anti-jamming capability is extremely strong. Additionally, the launcher is equipped with a 76mm rapid-fire cannon. This rapid-fire cannon is quite famous. It is the PG-26 single-barrel naval rapid-fire gun. It has a caliber of 76mm. Its rate of fire can reach 132 rounds per minute. Hey, you heard me right. That is a 76mm cannon. It can fire with the effect of a machine gun. This is called the frequency of full firepower. Let me show you how. It is roughly like this. That is the frequency. This is not a machine gun. This is a 76mm gun. This type of gun has an effective range of up to 12 kilometers. It can not only hit sea targets, but also aircraft. It can also target anti-ship missiles. This is because the gun is radar-controlled. It belongs to the type with automatic tracking. It is said to have an effective hit rate of over 80% against flying objects. The effective hit rate of anti-ship missiles is greater than 75%. As a result, this thing, China, has mounted it on a Coast Guard ship. So it went into enforcement. At that time, the 9701 ship of Zhao Fei was just stunned on the spot. When Xiaofei saw this, he thought, wait a minute. This Panda family's Coast Guard ship is already bizarre. It can't possibly be carrying a military helicopter. This is no longer law enforcement. This is about to go to war. Just as I was saying, I looked at the radar. Goodness, that 055 destroyer, the Zhanyang, is right next to us. Hey, this is no longer Coast Guard enforcement. You brought a warship over. Aren't you 300 kilometers away from Huangyang Island to our Manila? Bring over a 055. Who are you trying to scare? With just over 100 vertical launch units, how many Longsword 100 missiles can you carry? If you are crazy, you could carry at least 80. If you are not crazy, then you can carry at least 30. That Longsword 100 is actually a supersonic cruise missile. It can reach speeds of 4 Mach. What are you thinking? Are you planning to stabilize all of Southeast Asia? If you position this 05 sniper here, you could even hit Guam. In that case, I will take my leave. No more games. So the 9701 ship turned around and left. Then our 5901 Coast Guard ship rushed over. After that, there were no further reports. Until January 13th. Public news reported the 9701 ship's engine suddenly malfunctioned. It stalled at sea. So why did the engine stall? I remember at the beginning of 2024, I talked about one episode. The wonderful use of that big bubble. Alright, no more teasing. It is that big bubble. The kind you fill with water for smoking, you know. Let 'em know. That big bubble can not only scare people. Can we still fry that bacon? Maybe it is just like this. The 9701 ship has stalled. It is said that they used the backup engine, traveling at a speed of 10 knots. It is forced to return with a limp. By January 16th, more news broke out. That little flying ship, the 2,000-ton 9702 vessel, has also entered dry dock for major repairs. This has resulted in the entire country having no ships available. There are reports that Philippine Foreign Secretary Manalo has confirmed that the Philippines has already reminded China to engage in discussions regarding recent maritime disputes. The Philippines no longer raises the issue of the island's sovereignty and acknowledges China's effective control of the island since 2012. Their current sole demand is that China stop filling and reclaiming the wild island. You see, it has been 2 years now since the maritime standoff with Xiaofei. Why is Xiaofei calmer this time? That is what I explained in episode 3. After that beautiful USS Calvinson left, no warships have come since. So military presence is the foundation of discourse power. If you have military presence, you can talk to me. You can make a fuss with me. If you do not have military presence, then your discourse power also does not exist. Alright, this is what is happening in the South China Sea right now. I believe it won't end here. There are even more exciting struggles awaiting us in the future.